Hi and welcome to the screencast. I'm your host Mohammad Azam, and in this particular screencast I will show you that how you can use Spec, which is from the IronRuby world and equivalent to our Spec in the Ruby world, to write behavior-driven development test for your applications. The first thing that you need to do is to download Spec, okay? And downloading means actually to getting the gem. Okay, so once you have downloaded the IronRuby 0.6 version, which is the latest version at this particular point, you will see this igem command over here. So the first task for you is to go to this particular folder. I'm over here, and now I can say igem install Spec. And if I press enter, it's going to download the Spec on my machine and it will install it. So if I go back, let me actually see where it's been downloaded. So I have my file over here. We have lib, we have IronRuby, we have gems 1.8. If I go to bin, I will have the Spec over here. Now this is a batch file, so the easiest way for you to basically execute this is to get the environment, to specify the environment path for this particular folder. And it's pretty easy. You just go to your my computer and you go to advanced and you say environment variables and you select the path, you edit the path, and you will see that I have already set up that particular path to the gem, to the bin folder, which contains this Spec batch file, because this is a file you will need to execute your specification, also known as examples. Let's go back now. We have the same, basically the same things. We're referring to the business objects.dll. We also have the include business objects, so that we don't have to write the whole namespace. The test/unit is now gone and replaced by Spec and Ruby gems. Okay, so let's get started with writing our test. So it starts with some, it's a domain specific language, so I'm just going to start with describing it. So describing, I'm just going to say prime service, okay, do and then end. Okay, so I'm describing the prime service and it will do certain things. I can say over here it should return 1, or it return true when 1 is passed. And now it is my responsibility to fill out the blank over here. Okay, now I can say over here person, I can create, I mean not person but the prime service object, but better way is to do it over here, before, do and end. Over here I can say prime service, so before is actually going to fire before each of the specification or each of the tests that is going to run. So I can say over here prime service dot new, okay, and now I can say add prime service dot is prime, and I'm going to pass 1 and should be equal to true. Okay, and if I go to prime service, I know that it's going to return true because we have already coded that part in the last example. Okay, now if I need to run this, I need to go to that folder which is in test suite. So I'm just going to go over there. So I'm over there. Now I can say Spec, and this is what? This is test underscore prime.rb. That's the name of the file. I also need to say that, okay, what kind of format I need. So I'm just going to say, okay, format is nested. You can have HTML, you can have some sort of a Spec document. I'm just going to use nested. So it's going to throw an error, and it's saying, okay, some issues with the formatting. Let me go over there. There we go. So there's a space between the file extension and the format. And here we go. And here is the test. So it says prime service should return should return true when 1 is passed. So one example, and there's no problem, it actually passed. Let's go ahead and make a different test, and I'm just going to write it over here. Should return what? Should return true when 2 is passed, do and I'm going to say prime service dot is prime. I'm going to say 2, and it should return me a true value. And if I go over there and execute it again, so as you can see, it's much more readable than the last time. We don't have to type that much of a code. So it should return is passed, and this is passed. I mean, passed is actually that's basically this I'm defining as a statement. Now let's say it should throw an error when a negative number is passed. So this is my test. Okay, and to throw an error you have to use lambda expression, and what I have to say over here is prime service dot is prime minus 1 dot should raise error. Okay, so it's just saying that okay, this should raise an error because we are not calculating prime numbers for negative values. So it ran, and basically, oh, I'm sorry, it should be lambda. Okay, kind of bad with spellings. Okay, so we're going to run this, and here we go. So it failed, and it clearly showed over here that it actually failed. Prime should throw an error, blah blah blah, expected exception, but nothing was raised. So it will actually tell you that it was expecting an exception, but no exception was actually found. So we can go to the prime service, and I can say over here that okay, if number is less than 0, then please throw a new argument exception, which is like, you know, invalid input or something like that. Let's go back to the specifications. I'm going to run the test again. Now it is throwing an error, and now it is actually passed because we are throwing an error for the 0 number, okay, for less than 0. So this is pretty much it. Now this is much more clear. When you run the test, you can actually see that okay, it's the prime service should return true when 1 is passed, should return true when 2 is passed, should throw an error, and all these tests are actually passing. It also requires you to write less code, you know, than when you're writing in your C# and you're making classes, and each class is basically representing a certain context. So in that particular way, it is much more compact than the C# version. That's pretty much it. In the future tutorials or screencasts, I will show you more advanced techniques of using Spec. If you do have any question, you can email me at azamsharp@gmail.com. We are always looking for sponsors. If you want to sponsor a screencast, you can shoot me an email at azamsharp@gmail.com. Thank you very much.